What's up, everybody? It's JT Sports Match, you guys, with another video. This video I'm here with my Minnesota versus Penn State Week 11 college football preview and prediction. I'm going to be previewing this matchup and give my prediction for who will win this game. Now, before I begin, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, upload NFL videos and college football videos daily. Also, make sure to hit the notification button, which is right next to the subscribe button. It will alert you every time I upload a new video. And also make sure to follow me down on my social media pages, JT Sports _. The link to those will be down in the description down below. So in this game, we have a battle of the unbeatens in the Big Ten. We have number 5 ranked Penn State, who is 8-0 in the season, versus number 13th ranked Minnesota, who is 8-0 in the season, surprisingly. Now, a lot of Penn State fans going into this game think that Minnesota has no chance of winning this game. And a lot of college football fans in general think that Minnesota doesn't have a chance of winning this game. And a lot of people think that Minnesota is just a fluke team. And I want to say that Minnesota is actually a very good team. This team could legitimately beat Penn State. I mean, most of you guys watching this video have not watched the full Minnesota Gophers game. And be honest, go in the comment section and tell me, have you watched at least 2 Minnesota Gopher games? I'm pretty sure most of you guys, if you're being reasonable and not lying, would say no. I haven't even seen 1 Minnesota game. And if you tell me that you've seen a lot of Minnesota Gopher games, unless you're a Minnesota Gopher fan, then I wouldn't believe you. Because most of the games that Minnesota has played and has been on the CBS Sports Network and on the Big Ten Network. And a lot of people don't even get those channels. So if you're trying to tell me that you don't think Minnesota is a good team and you've never seen them play, then I think you need to go back and watch a couple of games on YouTube, because they got a couple of games on YouTube, shortened games that you can go ahead and watch, and then you can come back and tell me if you think that Minnesota is a legit team or not, because this is a legit team. This is not a one-trick pony like how Kentucky was last year, or how we've seen all these previous underdog story teams come up and be unbeaten. This team is legit. They're not a one-trick pony. They can pass the football. They have speed on the outside. They have wide receivers who can create separation. They have a great secondary. They have one of the best secondaries in all of college football when we look at the stats. And, I mean, this is a very well-coached team. And it's experience. And, I mean, I'm not just the one saying that this team is good. I mean, go look at Vegas. Vegas has Penn State as a 6.5-point favorite to win this game. Now, if Minnesota wasn't a good team, then I'm pretty sure Vegas will have Penn State favored to win this game by at least 14 or more points. So the fact that Vegas has Penn State as a 6.5-point favorite to win this game, and Minnesota's a 6.5-point underdog in this game, then I think that might go to show you that this Minnesota team might actually be legit. Because these people in Vegas, they look at stats, they watch the games, they cannot mess around and afford to overlook teams and underrate teams and overrate teams. So when Vegas has Penn State as a 6.5-point favorite at the time of recording this on Sunday afternoon, this Minnesota team is legit. I mean, they have talent on the outside, and their defense, their secondary is really good, led by Antoine Winfield Jr., who is on pace to have an All-American caliber season. He has 5 interceptions, 2 sacks, 25 tackles. He was a former 2016 freshman All-American. They have a lot of talent on the back end of their secondary. Their linebacker core is really good. You got Kamar Martin, who is having 46 tackles, 1 pass deflection, 2 interceptions, and 2 forced fumble. And one of the team captains on their team on the defensive side of the ball, linebacker Carter Coughlin, has 34 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 4 pass deflections, and 2 forced fumble. And also the quarterback, Tanner Morgan, he's pretty good as well. 1,761 pass yards, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 76.4 quarterback rating. This Minnesota Gophers team, they're legit. Now, Penn State, on the other hand, we know how good of a team Penn State is. They're one of the best teams in the nation. A lot of people think they could be the only team in the Big Ten to be Ohio State. But a big reason why I think Minnesota has a legit chance to win this game is because Penn State has not really been that good when it comes to stopping the pass. They're like 60th in the nation in passing yards per game allowed. And we go back to that Michigan game. Michigan had success throwing the football on them, and Michigan, over the last couple of weeks prior to that Penn State game, was not really efficient throwing the football. And after the second half of that, after halftime in that Michigan-Penn State game, I don't know what got into Shea Patterson, but he started clicking. That passing game started clicking, and he started having success against Penn State in the passing game. So Penn State secondary is a little bit of a question mark going into this game, and I think that's something that Minnesota can exploit. Now, I'm not going to be completely one-sided and say that Minnesota is unbeatable, because Minnesota has weaknesses as well, and a big weakness that Penn State can exploit is that they have a lot more talent than Minnesota, and they're a lot bigger than Minnesota up front. When you look at Minnesota's offensive line and Penn State's offensive line, and you look at both these teams in the trenches, Penn State is going to have the athleticism, and they're going to have the size advantage because they recruit better than Minnesota and whatnot. So, of course, they're going to have the athleticism and size on their side. Now, the question is, can Minnesota keep this game close enough that this game could end up being a one-possession game in the full quarter, and they don't end up losing this game, getting rostered to death by Penn State and the talent that Penn State has on their team? That's going to be the question to remain seen going into this game, because the thing is, when you look at some of these teams, like these powerhouse teams compared to a team like Minnesota, the thing is that these teams, most of the time, they end up being competitive, but then they end up fading down the stretch late in the games because they just end up getting out-talented or rostered to death, which is what most people say. When a team gets rostered to death, that just means the talent of that team just absolutely takes over and takes control of the game. So, Minnesota, if they can get this game into the full quarter, they have a legitimate chance of winning this game. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be like, Minnesota hasn't played nobody. Minnesota that hasn't had a tough schedule up to this point. That is true. But some of these teams that they have beat, they beaten these teams. Some of these teams have beaten guys like Wisconsin. They beat Illinois 40-17. We saw what Illinois did to Wisconsin a couple of weeks ago. They beat down Nebraska 34-7, and they beat down Maryland 52-10. So if you're trying to tell me that you don't think this Minnesota team has no chance of beating Penn State at Minnesota, home field advantage, you know it's going to be sold out. You know it's going to be live. You know it's going to be rocking. Probably the biggest home game Minnesota has had in a very long time. I think Minnesota has a very legitimate chance of winning this game. And I mean, just look at the line in this game. Penn State is only favored to win this game by 6.5 points. So, I mean, that line could change, but I don't see Penn State being no more than a 10-point favorite to win this game. So, I mean, Vegas even thinks that this Minnesota team is legit. And if you haven't watched the Minnesota Gophers game, go on YouTube, look at a condensed game, and then you tell me what you see in this Minnesota Gophers team. Now, I know they struggled a little bit in the first part of the season, but then they're now starting to click. If you look at what they did in conference play, this team has been absolutely dominant in Big Ten conference play. Dominant. They beat Illinois 40-17. Wisconsin couldn't even do that. So when we look at my keys to victory, both of these teams to be able to do to win this game, for this team to win this game for Minnesota, they have to be able to win the line of scrimmage. Now look, Minnesota, if they're not able to win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, offensive and defensive side of the ball, they're not going to win this game. Because look, Minnesota, I know I said they got a very good skill position, but a big reason why teams like Minnesota don't end up going on big championship runs is because they don't win the line of scrimmage when they play teams like Penn State. If they want to win this game, they have to be able to win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. If not, they're not going to be able to win this game. It's going to come down to the line of scrimmage. If Minnesota cannot win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football, they're going to lose this game. Next up, they have to get stops in the red zone. Now, they have the 13th best red zone offense going against Penn State, who has one of the better red zone offenses in college football. So when they get inside the 20, most of the time they score. Now, Minnesota has one of the worst red zone defenses in all of college football. 121st in the nation in red zone defense. So most of the time, when this defense gets pushed inside the 20th, they end up allowing touchdowns most of the time. So Minnesota's red zone defense is going to have to be absolutely outstanding if they want to end up beating this Penn State team. They're going to have to hold Penn State to field goals instead of touchdowns if they want to be able to keep this game close. And so they can end up having a chance to win this game in the fourth quarter. This game is all about, can Minnesota survive and can Minnesota get into the fourth quarter and have a fair shot of winning this game? Because if Minnesota is able to keep this game close and get into the fourth quarter, have a good shot of winning this game, because that's how a lot of upsets happen. Now, if they're not able to get stops in the red zone and Penn State's getting into the red zone, getting touchdowns left and right, then they most likely aren't going to be able to keep this game close in the fourth quarter, and they most likely aren't going to be able to win this game. They also, Tanner Morgan has to play great. Because look, Penn State is one of the best teams in college football stopping the run. So I'm not expecting Minnesota to come in here and just run the ball down Penn State's throats. I'm expecting Penn State to stop the run, and Minnesota is going to have to rely on Tanner Morgan, their star quarterback, to win this game for them. And they have a chance because Penn State's secondary hasn't really been that good this season. Now, what Penn State has to be able to do to win this game is they have to limit the big pass plays. Minnesota is 8th in the nation in yards per completion. Every time they complete a pass, they're averaging 16.1 yards every time they have a completed pass. And Penn State's secondary has not been that good. Penn State's defense now allows 5.9 yards per completion, which is 12th in the nation. But I mean, when we just look at this secondary overall, when we look at the stats, they're 60th in the nation in passing yards per game allowed. So, I mean, Minnesota, that's a big hole that Minnesota could exploit in this Penn State secondary if this Penn State secondary doesn't show up. Now, Penn State secondary plays how they played in the second half of that Michigan game, then they have a good chance of losing this game. But if they're able to play lights out, then they have a good chance of winning this game. Now, the last thing Penn State has to be able to do is they have to be able to run the football. Now, Minnesota is 15th in the nation to stop the run of line, 109.3 rushing yards per game. But, I mean, Penn State, you think Penn State having the better athletes and more size up front on the offensive line compared to Minnesota's defensive line, you think Penn State should be able to have success running the football just because they have the better athletes and more size on the offensive line, and they should be able to have success pushing back that Minnesota Gophers defensive line since their defensive line isn't as big and doesn't really have that size and athleticism that Penn State has compared to their offensive line. So I think Penn State should have success running the football. So the team that I'm going with to win this game, I'm going to take Penn State to win this game. Penn State wins this game 34-24 in my opinion. And the reason why is this: I love a good underdog story. I'm going to be rooting for Minnesota to win this game because I always root for the underdog. That's just me as a person. I love seeing the underdog succeed, and I want to see Minnesota win this game. But realistically, I have to be non-biased. I think Penn State is going to win this game. And the reason why is because I think Minnesota, they're going to get into the fourth quarter, but eventually we're going to start seeing that talent and the recruiting of Penn State take over, and Penn State is probably going to end up winning this game 34-24. Now, Minnesota will probably get this game into the fourth quarter because of the talent, but at the end of the day, I just think overall the recruiting and the size and athleticism of Penn State is going to start to be a factor, and Penn State is going to end up winning this game in the fourth quarter, and I think Penn State wins this game 34-24, but I will be rooting for Minnesota to win this game because I love a good upset story. So let me know who you guys think ends up winning this game down in the comment section down below. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and college football videos, and thanks for watching.